Okay, so it's 6:02, so we will go right into the select board meeting. I will give an abbreviated preamble because it was only 10 minutes ago, but welcome to the April 25th, 2022 select board meeting. And this meeting is held by Zoom. Attendance by the boards and commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards the quorum. We're asking, if you are watching and you have a question, please pose your question in the Q&A feature of the Zoom portal, and remember to include your name and your address for our minutes. So with that, let me switch to the select board, and let me just ask everybody to restate their name to ensure we have a quorum.
Craig Barger.
Mark Lamb.
Jamie Stebbins.
Jennifer Stacy.
And Dottie Fulgenetti. Terrific. So the first thing that we have is this Saturday was the town election, and Mark and I were reelected to another 3-year term on the select board. So thank you for entrusting us with that to the public. And the first meeting after an election, we looked at the board reorganization to appoint the chair and the vice chair / clerk. So I would be happy to continue on as the chair if you so desired, or if somebody else, if anyone has any ideas.
I'm happy to nominate Dottie Fulgenetti as chair for another term on the select board.
Second.
Hey, thank you. You want to take a vote? That was Barger and Lamb.
Barger Fulgenetti.
Lamb Fulgenetti.
Stebbins Fulgenetti.
Stacy Fulgenetti.
And Fulgenetti. And Craig, if you would want to continue on being the vice chair, I would make a motion to keep you as vice chair.
I appreciate that. I look forward to it.
I'll second that.
So that's Fulgenetti and Lamb.
Oh, Barger.
Lamb Barger.
Stebbins Barger.
Stacy Barger.
And Fulgenetti Barger. Terrific. All right, the third item that we have is the Arbor Day proclamation. And do we have anyone here for that, Connor, or?
We do not, but we could take that out of order because you do have the 6 p.m. Timed item, and I believe your guests for that are here.
Okay, so we'll go back to that. Somebody remind me if I forget. So we'll bring on the 6 o'clock. Then we have the presentation and review of proposals for the newly available Section 15 off-premises package store all alcohol liquor license. And hold on one second.
Is it one license, Connor, or two?
So while Dottie pulls up the paperwork, just to give a brief overview to the board and anyone watching the public, the board, as a result of the 2020 federal census, now has the ability to issue one additional all alcohol package store license and one additional beer and wine license. The board voted, I believe, in February or March to basically have a moratorium with an advertising period where we would solicit letters of interest from businesses to come in tonight and have their information reviewed by the board and make a quick kind of pitch of what they would intend to do with one of those licenses, with the process ending with the board basically deciding either tonight or to a continued meeting to invite them to file for the application and go through that process. So there's one beer and wine and there's one all alcohol. We received originally 3 proposals, all for the all alcohol. We received none for the beer and wine. Over the weekend, one of those all alcohol proposals, which is listed at the top of the agenda, I think it was just alphabetical, that's LLAWM1 LLC at Depot Street, withdrew their application. So you have 2 to consider. You have Raj Patel at 420 Turnpike Street and Sunny Patel at 750 Washington Street. And both of those packages of materials are in your packet. So again, the advertisement was for either beer and wine or all alcohol. We received no letters for the beer and wine. And we received 3, which is now dropped to 2 for the all alcohol. So we have, I believe, representatives of those groups in the meeting. Dottie, if you'd like, we could just go in the order on the agenda.
Yes, and while we bring on Raj Patel, I do want to just let everybody at home know we did put out this solicitation for people to respond to us. And some of the criteria that we asked for are, we asked for the proposed address, building square footage, available parking, lease agreements, expected traffic generation, any other information and documentation about the location of the business. We were looking for a detailed description of the type of business, including which license they're seeking, other types of sales and hours of operation, ownership information, and a detailed description of the applicant's experience in operating a package store license, how the business will create jobs, support the local economy, and support the town's economic and community development goals, what experience the applicant has with safe service of alcohol in a college community, and any other information that will help the select board make a decision that will serve in the best public need. So as people know, we are really trying to move forward economic development in our community, and that's what these licenses are really for, as an economic development driver. So I see our friend Attorney Walter Marioni is here, and good to see you, Walter.
Good to see you as well. Congratulations on your election, and you as well, Mark.
Thank you,
you.
Walter.
Re-election, I should say.
And
Good evening, everybody else.
and so we have Raj Patel is your client, and he's here as well.
Correct.
So Mr. Patel, if you'd like to put on your video.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
I think he's in his car driving, taking care of his kids, so
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to cause any.
he's
harm.
multitasking. He may not be driving, but in the car. He's not with me.
Okay.
We're in two different locations.
So we have a packed agenda, and I just want to set the expectations that we're looking for very brief conversation about this. Maybe, up to 5 minutes to tell us a little bit about why this would be an economic development driver in that location with these owners, and a little bit of their history. So give us your best elevator pitch on that, and then the board will be able to ask questions. We are not going to vote on this tonight. We're going to think about it. This is really important. We haven't done this in my time on the board in 9 years, so I want us to be able to have a little bit of time to digest this. And then at our next meeting, Monday, May 2nd, we'll put it back on the agenda, and you can come back and hear our deliberations for that. So I think we just lost Mr. Patel. Is he back here?
In the interest of time, do you want to have Walter do it? I'm happy to start. Sure.
Hi,
Hello, welcome.
how you doing?
Great.
It's good.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, board members. As a formality, my name is Walter Marioni. I'm with the law firm of Marioni, Shaughnessy, and Udy. I am a longtime, almost lifetime Easton resident. Our client is Mr. Raj Patel. Mr. Patel resides in Braintree. I understand the marching orders. We've submitted a package, which I think we tried our best to address all of the points in the RFP. So with your permission, I just want to hit some of the highlights, because there are a few things that are different about this application, in our opinion, that Mr. Patel emphasized when trying to put together the response to the RFP. Most notably, he recognized the need, right? There's a license available. License becomes available because there's a need based on population. And he searched around town, went to many locations to try and find a location that satisfied that need, and took into consideration, again, the elements of the RFP, and settled on a location at 420 Turnpike Street. And the reason we think that is the best location is because it services an area that's not currently being serviced. If you look at that location and then go from there to the nearest all alcohol package stores, if you go south, well, let's start going north. If you go from there north, you have to go to the corner of 123 and 138 to the package store that's in the old Korea's Plaza. It's almost 2 miles. If you go south to the Rainham Easton line, again, about 2 miles, you hit nothing. There's no similar stores that serve all alcohol. If you go south and then head east towards West Bridgewater, you go about 3/4 of a mile to the West Bridgewater line. And again, there is no similar store. If you go south and then take a right, so heading west onto 106, you come to Five Corners, 3.5 miles, and there you hit 2 similar stores, right? Going one on Depot, one on, what is that? One on 106 heading out, so Foundry. So there's nothing in this immediate area that services this need. And the need is there because it's a densely populated area. There's a tremendous amount of residences in that area. There's a lot of side streets off of 138 that were built under old zoning that are very densely populated. There's a lot of condominiums. It's inundated with condominiums at 106, 123, as well as on that strip of 138. In that strip of 138, fronting on 138 is full of businesses. So you're hitting a need of people that live and work there, as well as all of those people that drive up and down that road, going to work, coming home from work. You're going to hit a lot of West Bridgewater people, a lot of Rainham people that are leaving town, heading home, that will now stop, and this will become a destination location as opposed to, you know, a place like the other applicant that withdrew, where you'd be shopping at a Shaw's and you would just stop in next door. People are going to come here for this service. That's how they're going to fulfill their need. And the other big thing this location does is it takes a building that is 3/4 empty and is starting to show that sort of that rundown look, and livens up the building again by putting a tenant in there that'll bring people to the location. So I think that this location hits all of those things. It hits all of the high points of serving the need, which is identified by the population and the extra license that's been awarded to the town. So the physical location of the building, there's plenty of room. Again, the location is about 3,480 square feet. There's plenty of room to run the operation. Mr. Patel currently works at 2 of these stores, very similar. One is Colonial Liquors on the Randolph-Braintree line, and the other one is Hennessy in Easton. His father owns both. He's been working with his father for several years. So he's gained that experience. He's gained necessary experience being taught by his father how to run these stores, how to operate them, and is ready to move into his own store. Very importantly, in operating the Easton store, is he's developed an understanding of, one, the seriousness of the town, the seriousness of this board, and understands that Stonehill College is not only right down the street, but Bridgewater isn't far away either. So I think in operating the Easton store, he really has come to appreciate the sort of extra diligence that is necessary. He's tip certified. Anybody that's worked in these stores is tip certified. That won't change if he's awarded this license and is able to open his own store. The business that is, or the businesses that his father operates, most importantly, focusing on the Easton store, uses Easton resources, buys craft beer from Shoveltown, buys his t-shirts from Pops across the street, buys as much as he can from Easton businesses. He's willing to commit to that. He's willing to commit to giving preference to Easton residents as employment. So whatever he can do to use the resources in Easton and spend his money in Easton, that's a commitment that he's willing to make. Seems to work, seems to draw people to Hennessy's. People seem to like them. They seem to know them. And that's something that is a business model and a business practice of his dad he wants to continue. The other thing about the location that I just want to touch on, there's a small existing tenant there. it's Aroma Nail and Spa. I put in my brief that there are in excess of 30 parking spaces. Just to give you an exact number, I stopped by there. There are actually 35 striped spaces presently there. And I've been in there twice, including about an hour and a half ago. And on each occasion, I only saw 2 cars parked there. So there's ample parking. It is not particularly difficult to get in and out of that, that location onto 138. Obviously, it's very easy to take a right and head towards Easton. It backs up for a couple of seconds if you're going left towards Rainham, but still the traffic flows very nicely. It's one way around the building, and there are plenty of parking there.
Okay. I'm gonna go to questions. Craig?
Good evening, Mr. Patel. Thank you for looking to do business, some more business in Easton. Can you talk to me a little bit about your experience, how long you've worked with your dad, and how long you've been in the business?
Hi. So, from my experience, yes, I've been working with my dad 2 to 3 days in a week. I have 1 year experience, mostly like more on. I'm in college right now. That is why. Last year in college. I'm in my last year in college right now.
Okay. So you anticipate how many times a week are you going to be working?
With my dad right now, currently 2 to 3 days a week right now, because in college right now.
So what's your goal in terms of opening the new store and how much time you're going to be able to spend there?
Every day, once I get my once I get the store every day, because it's my last year in college.
Okay, that's all I have for right at the moment. I might have some other questions as we proceed.
Okay.
Mark?
How you doing, Mr. Patel?
Hi, how you doing?
Good. So in any of your previous businesses that you've been associated with, sounds like it's been family business, have there been any infractions that you know of? We, as was mentioned earlier, we take that very seriously.
Like infractions? Yeah. Actually, what do you mean by infractions? Like
Selling to minors.
oh, no, not really. Just we always check ID, and we have ID scanner and everything.
Okay. And I'm trying to figure out, Walter, maybe you could help me out. Which is this where Bazaar Hair Salon is? Is this the building to the north or to the south?
It's probably 3 buildings heading towards Rainham on the same side.
Is it blue?
No, I can just give me 1 second because I have a picture in the
I'm
package.
just trying to.
It's brick. It's a tan colored brick with a brown roof.
Okay.
There's a blue building. The next building up is a blue old house.
Okay. Because my question is,
can you see this?
Yes, I can see that. Okay. Yep, I know exactly. Will there be any exterior enhancements or parking lot enhancements? Do you plan on investing anything into the infrastructure of the building or parking lot to make it more attractive?
The enhancements to the building any enhancements will be performed by the landlord. It's not the tenant's responsibility. So, I think as necessary to get a CO, the tenant will have to get involved to that extent. Having looked at it, maybe, I guess one thing I didn't look at is whether there were striped handicap spots. So maybe some things like that would have to be done. But I think it's pretty much on the outside ready to be occupied. The inside's a mess. The inside needs work. And the client, Raj, will do all of that work.
Okay, those are my only questions.
Can I just respond to the first question that Mark answered? I don't represent Raj's dad as the owner of Hennessy's, but I was made aware that a few days ago, there was a violation there. There was a Raj was not there. He probably doesn't even know about it. But there was a service of a minor on a Thursday night So I believe we submitted this on April 11th. So it would have been the Thursday night following that. And again, I don't even know that Raj is aware of it. I don't know any of the details, but I became aware of it. And I was going to bring that up to you at the end because in my letter, I state that there have been no violations at either location. And there has now been one, although again, Raj was not there.
Thank you. I appreciate you being forthcoming with that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yep.
Something that we would be checking anyway, just for
Yeah,
our
yeah.
due diligence.
Fair is fair. Yep.
So next is Jamie.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, thank you too for bringing that up, but I think important, and Mark may have gone further with this, is to say that the training, making sure that Raj has been part of successful training. I understand they have the positive ID check and scanning of the IDs, but to make sure that any personnel that he employs, which I imagine he will be, given the amount of hours that he'll be in operation, are getting the necessary training to avoid having violations.
Yeah, Raj is committed to training, to everybody being tip certified. So, you know, there is no condition and no discussion along those lines that he is not willing to, let me say reasonable, that he is not willing to come along with and do what the board is looking to have done. It's not even a question.
Terrific. Okay, Jen.
I have no questions. Mine were actually covered by a previous speaker.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So this is where the top-notch space was, and you said it, and aroma nails is still there. Will this take up all of the rest of the space, or is there still going to be vacant space in that building?
It'll take up the remainder of the space in the building.
Okay. What about, I looked at it on, I didn't have a chance to get down there and look at it in person, but it looked like it's not really in a residential area, but there is a house next to it. Is that a house that a person lives in the neighborhood, or is that being used for business? Do you know?
I don't know what happens with that house now. There used to be a business that was run out of there. I don't know if that's still the case. There is a condominium project that is the direct abutter behind the site. So you're looking at it along 138, but directly behind the site. If you drove to the rear of the building, that condominium complex is right behind it.
Okay.
There's a fence back there, but there is residential right behind it.
Okay. And you know, you mentioned, and it was in the pictures in our packet, the condition of the inside of it. It does look like it needs a lot of work. So what's the time frame for when you think you're going to be up and running?
I think it really depends on, and this is not pushing the ball down the road. Anybody that's involved in construction these days will understand that it's not predictable right now between materials and problems getting materials and problems getting subs. If that was not an issue and there was a license that was committed by the board, the work could be done in 30 days. It wouldn't surprise me if it takes 90 days just because of those factors. So I would say 30 to 90 days from the time that we know there's a commitment for the license to issue, the work will get done.
Okay. Because we you know, I see in your lease, you said that you are, you know, contingent on this. I would imagine you're entering into a lease agreement for that. We want something, economic development incentive, to happen quickly. So what
Sure.
we don't really want is somebody to get the license and sit on it for a year or 6 months, or, you know, we just want to make sure that that's clear. The intention is to get moving.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other questions from the board, Mr. Patel, did you have any final comment that you wanted to add?
No final comment.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Like I said, we're not going to deliberate on it tonight. We're going to deliberate at the next meeting, and you're welcome to come back and join us again.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
everybody.
Patel. Thank you, Walter.
Have a good night. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, and
I can move the next of the two interested parties in.
thank you. The next applicant is Southeastern Corporation doing business as Sunny's. So this is also Mr. Patel, right?
Correct.
Hello, you have your, oh, there you are, you're off mute now.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
My name is Neil, and this is my father, Sunil Patel. I believe our attorney will be joining as well.
Is that Matthew Porter?
Yes.
Dakota, yep.
We'll move him in. Like we told the previous applicant, I know that you were on here. We're looking for your 5-minute elevator pitch to tell us how your proposal will really increase economic development for our community.
Sure.
Yep.
Hello, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board. My name is Matthew Porter. I'm the attorney of the R&D John Filippo, located here in Easton. And if it pleases the Board, I can certainly give some background, and then we can open up to any questions. And certainly Mr. Patel are both here in order to answer any questions as well. So as I said, my name is Matthew Porter. I represent Southeastern Corporation, which does business as Sunny's Convenience, which is at 750 Washington Street. This is an existing business in town, which is currently operating with a beer and wine license. Along with me is Sunil Patel, who goes by Sunny. Mr. Patel is the owner of that store. Alongside him is his son, Neil Patel. If the board were to approve the license for this location, Neil would be the full-time liquor license manager. So he'd be on site 40 to 50 hours per week operating that store. Just by way of background, Sunil has lived in Easton for the last 20 years or so. He raised Neil in town, who went through Oliver Ames and graduated there. In 2001, they purchased the
2007.
No, I'm moving
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry.
2007. You're not that old. All right.
No.
In 2001, Mr. Patel purchased the plaza at 750 Washington Street. They held that plaza for a period of time. In 2016, it went through major renovations. They spent close to $250,000 renovating that building, with a primary focus on that parking lot, which needed to be redone, which came out spectacular. Around that time in 2016, they reopened Sunny's Convenience at that location with the beer and wine license and have been operating there since. There are now, I believe, since that point, there are 4 or maybe 5 other tenants that have now filled out that plaza, which was previously empty. And these guys have really been the driving force behind the other businesses now coming in. Unfortunately, the convenience store industry is tightening severely. There's a lot of competition with the big box stores coming in with online purchases. And so as hard as these guys have tried and as diligently as they've tried, it's becoming increasingly difficult in order for them to pay their bills and continue to operate. And so with this opportunity here, the full liquor license, it would give them the ability to restructure the whole entire model of that store. The convenience aspect of it has really suffered recently. The plan here would be to build out a brand new full service liquor store, trying to focus primarily on the craft local products, which are now driving that industry. The store is in excellent shape already. There's brand new coolers in there. Really does not require a whole lot of renovation. So they could be up and running in this fashion fairly quickly. As operating in town for the period of time that they have, they certainly understand the responsibilities that come along with the sale of beer and wine in a college community. They've had no violations whatsoever at this location. Both Mr. Patel and his son are tip certified, as are their 2 employees, one of which has been with them for, I believe, over 20 years and the other employee over 10 years. So these guys have a great track record with employees. They are already a great part of this community. And similar to the earlier applicant as well, their location does serve a public need in that it sits in a pocket without many other licenses there. So, certainly the parking is ample. There's no real traffic concerns because it's an existing plaza with a beer and wine store, already in there. So I think with that, I could certainly open it up to the board to ask any questions, and Neil and Sunny are here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to the board. Craig, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm just curious as to what experience you've had, Mr. Patel, prior to this. Have you done all alcohol business before, or just this particular convenience store?
So my father has been in business over 30 years. I've worked with him over the last 10 years. We've had beer and wine licenses. We haven't had an all alcohol. This would be our first, but we do have beer and wine licenses in 3 other locations in Massachusetts. And yeah, we have plenty of experience. We haven't had any violations in our locations. We have tip certifications for all of our employees, ourselves included. ID scanner is a must, and we do have that as well. Knowing where we are, growing up and being in this town, I know how important it is, the responsibility that we hold as a business owner, not just regular business owner, but being able to sell alcohol and controlled substance to the public, and having that responsibility and the weight that it carries.
Yeah.
And where are your other locations, Sonny? Or Neil, I'm sorry, Neil.
So I have another business location in West Springfield, Massachusetts, which we are in the midst of working with a partner on taking over that store so that I can move back here to Easton. I actually recently just moved out there about a year ago, just so we can get that process going and moving back here with this license here. My father's been in Easton 20 plus years. We have another location in Taunton as well. Taunton, Mass. That is also Sonny's Convenience with beer and wine, and also in Southwick, Massachusetts.
In Southwick, Massachusetts also.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No.
Mark?
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Doing well, and you?
Good. So you have other locations, and I just want to make sure I heard correctly. For you to operate this store, you have to be there 40, 50 hours a week.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And you live in West Springfield now. And so you're making moves, if this does work out, that you will, move closer, or even a resident of Easton.
Yes, exactly. I'll be moving back home here to Easton, and so that we can work together.
Okay. That's it. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie?
No questions. Thank you very much. I think you really addressed quickly some of our major concerns, and with the experience you have, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
And Jennifer?
And no other questions either. It was very thorough, and I'm very familiar with the plaza and the work that's been done there the past couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess my only question, like I asked the previous applicant, you had answered a couple of the other questions about getting up and running, and about the other, there's no vacancies in your plaza. So the last question that I have is for neighbors, you're already established, and we have not heard any complaints, or I have not heard any complaints about anything from the neighbors. Are there residences close to you, or?
Yes.
There is actually several residences close to us. We're actually directly across from Easton Crossing, which have several
over 200 community. Yes, the condominium is there.
And most of our customers that actually come through the door, especially since we've opened, do end up walking in assuming we're a full liquor license, and are turned away because we don't have that license as of yet. So that is something that we've been pushing for. And as far as vacancies goes, there is one direct adjacent to this space right now. There's one vacant store, which, assuming everything goes well and we're able to obtain a license, we'd like to expand so that we can take over that space as well. And that way we'll be able to bring on some more help, hire more employees, and be able to, really anchor down that plaza. We have over 80 parking spaces, 4 handicap parking spaces right up front. Very accessible. Our business does have ADA accessible bathroom as well. So it's something that we're really pushing to be open to all public.
Okay, terrific.
Thank you.
One more question, Dottie. I believe you guys had just recently redone your whole septic system. Am I correct there?
Yes.
And added an entire stormwater management system as well, as part of the parking lot infrastructure.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you being here, Attorney Porter and Mr. Sunil and Neil Patel. And as I said before, we're going to think about this and give it some consideration. We're going to come back and deliberate at our next meeting on May 2nd. You're welcome to come back then, and we should be able to get to a decision then.
Absolutely. We'll see you then.
Excellent.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So Dottie, if you're willing, the only two regular business items on your select board agenda before the 7 p.m. hearing that have a guest coming are items 6 and 7 relating to the school building project. And we do have Chad Grandin here from PMA if you wanted to take that up next.
Yes, I do appreciate you pulling that out. Sometimes it's easy when someone else is looking at it to guide. So sure, we'll move to item 6 for discussion and votes to authorize to increase the budget allowance from the existing project budget for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which is called FF&E, and information technology at the Blanche A. Ames School, and to authorize the purchase of the same from the Massachusetts state bid lists.
So while Chad is getting brought in, just for the board's edification, in your packet, there's a memo from PMA, our owner's project manager on the school building project. And importantly for this item and the next, a really straightforward slide covering the contingency utilization if we move forward with these recommended changes. So the first one is on FF&E. Some background here. This is related to furniture and IT. Certain costs are on a per pupil basis baked into a state formula that goes back 14 years. And in the environment we're in, it's not adequate to cover costs. So the memo lays out what PMA recommends. This went to the school planning committee, the technical review committee. I was at both, and they also recommend that we proceed with this way. But Chad, I don't want to, you're here, so I'll just do a poor job summarizing everything you can say about it. Can you just give a brief overview of what this is, what's driving it, and where, if the two-part vote, the adjustment of the allowance from 2 to 3 million and the proceeding with roughly 1.7 million off the state bid list, where does that leave us?
Yep, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Terrific. Good evening. Thank you for having me. So we do have 2 quick elementary school items this evening. The first, as Connor had mentioned, the FF&E and IT. So this is something every project in the MSBA's program runs up against. Those formulas, as Connor had stated, they date back 14, 15 years to the start of the MSBA. It's never been increased. So the way the MSBA calculates it, they give you $1,200 per student for FF&E, fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. And they give you $1,200 per student for technology. They only apply that to K through 12 students. So in Easton's case, it applies to the 760 K through 2 students. Back when we developed the budget, we had added another $1,200 each for each of the design enrollment 115 pre-K students. So that's where the original budget originated from. Important to understand, the MSBA does not reimburse for pre-K or central admin, and they will not reimburse us for anything that's over those $1,200 per student caps in either one of those cost codes. So historically, that $1,200 is not enough, even before the current market conditions. So what we do is we insert a soft cost contingency to put budget in for the anticipated overage. In Easton's case, the soft cost contingency was just a bit over $2 million. Generally, this is the biggest draw, and in many cases, the only draw against that contingency account. So that's great news. So the purchases that were summarized in the memo, we have numbers in from everything on state contracts. So the state contract purchases were in that memorandum, summing up to $1.7 million. We did actually just receive Chapter 30 sealed bids for the remainder of the items. So those Chapter 30 bids, we still are going through the recommendations. They all have substitutions in there. So it really is a process to kind of go through and see exactly what the final number is. But right now we're tracking around $900,000 and then another $50,000 of items that were not bid. So we're in better shape than the memo portrayed. But at this time, we're going to stick with what was discussed and recommended by the school planning committee, and that was to transfer $900,000 or an amount not to exceed 900,000 from that $2.16 million soft cost contingency account. And that would increase the FF&E and IT budgets to an amount not to exceed $3 million. And as Connor stated, this request does come with the unanimous recommendation of the school planning committee.
Okay, Craig, you have any questions?
Can I pause, let somebody else ask a question first, while I can continue to read this for the third time, this document, so I can understand it completely?
Sure. Mark?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I almost feel like, could you say what you just said, but in a different way and slower? There's a lot of dense material packed in there.
It is. So 2 cost accounts. We get $1,200 per student in each account, but we don't get anything for the pre-K students or for central admin. Those allowances are 15 years old, so they haven't kept up with the times. So each one of these MSBA projects overruns those allowances. Where we put the money in anticipation of that overrun is what's called the soft cost contingency. And the reason that we put it there is it leaves potential for the MSBA to reimburse it. If you didn't need it for FF&E, but say you needed it for, we had a hazmat issue and we needed to increase the scope of services for the hazmat consultant, it gives us an opportunity to use that money for something that's potentially reimbursable. Whereas if we just were to increase those FF&E and IT budgets, we'd be driving up the project cost with zero opportunity for reimbursement from the MSBA. So that is why the money is originally budgeted the way it is. So we know those FF&E and IT line items are going to be low. That has been exacerbated by the current market conditions. So generally a project of this size might be $300,000-$400,000 over on the entire purchase to outfit everything. Add in central admin for this building, and there's probably another $150,000 that we might be over as a result of outfitting central admin that not all schools have. The rest of that is absolutely market conditions. So it's what we're seeing on the global economic climate.
So this comes from the contingency account.
It does. So there are 2 contingency accounts. There's a construction contingency, and then there's a soft cost contingency. This would be coming from the soft cost. And right now it's the only anticipated draw from that soft cost contingency.
What else could possibly affect the soft cost contingency account?
So if we were in the abatement and demolition phase, so phase 2, where we take down that existing building and we find some surprise and we need to ramp up either geo-environmental or hazmat consultants, that might be a draw from there. That's probably the remaining largest risk item against that cost account.
You know, for me, I'm just, this is obviously necessary. I think we have to do this. I'm trying to foresee into the future and say, okay, we take $900,000 out of this soft cost contingency account, and we're very comfortable doing it. But I also do anticipate, that money's allocated there for a reason. And initially, this wasn't the reason initially why that account was created and that those funds were placed in there, but we're using them for this, correct?
So no, this is probably the largest draw across all MSBA projects against that cost account is FF&E and IT over.
Okay.
Yeah, Chad,
no, very important.
More clear, this contingency account was created at the size it was with this exact scenario in mind, correct?
Correct.
And I think it's important to note, so your packet's 242 pages, so sorry about that, guys, but congratulations on your re-election. Page 208 has a summary of all of these contingencies. So the soft cost contingency is actually the smallest bucket. So there's 2.16 million is what was in that contingency. There was 3.75 million in the construction contingency, and there was 11.25 million in bid savings. So there's very, and with this and the next item, if the board proceeds with both, you are looking at, I think, not even touching the 11+ million bid savings, Chad, correct? You were looking at a total authorized and potential exposure of 35% when you're 52% through the project. Is that accurate, Chad?
That is mostly accurate. So the wastewater treatment plant had not been bid yet. So we'll talk about that item next, but that would come out of that bid savings because it's unbought scope at this point, but we'll talk about that one afterwards. But Connor, you're absolutely right. We're looking at a net surplus of these two contingency accounts of 10 or $11 million, all said and done, even with this item and the wastewater treatment plant item factored in.
Right. That's what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
So
because everybody's so vigilant.
So the bottom line is we're still going to be under budget and there's still going to be a surplus in the contingencies.
That's what we're tracking. Yep, correct.
Excellent. Jamie?
Yeah, I'll just say, I don't think anyone could have predicted the current economic climate we'd be in. So the fact that we are where we are, and unfortunately this project wasn't starting now. And I know that things can still change with the, especially with soft costs as we move forward and lead times associated with some of the things that we need to outfit that school with. So having the close eyes of PMA, the likes of Chad and Walter on this project has absolutely been our saving grace. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jen?
Assuming this proceeds tonight, once this is locked in and the funding is transferred, how soon can contracts be put in place and IT purchases be made? I'm just thinking of avoiding escalation of costs because these things are rising so quickly, so fast. And also just really crazy lead times for any sort of technology right now. I'm seeing that in my workspace where we're having to constantly rethink what we're bringing in, which is also driving up costs as well.
Yep, both great points. So we are in touch with each of these vendors on a regular basis, trying to stay ahead of those issues. And the items that were selected were purposely fully selected with the project's schedule and end date in mind. So we would be able to move with this board's authorization on the 1.7 million in state contract awards immediately following this meeting. The remainder of the awards that are being final vetted now, we hope to have contracts ready for this board the next time the board meets. That amount is estimated at $900,000, and that's the bulk of the rest of it. We do have some no bid items, $40,000 or $50,000 of no bid items. Those will lag a little bit behind, but this gets what we need to open that building.
Great, thank you.
I think that's an excellent point because you're asking to increase the FF&E IT budget not to exceed the amount of $3 million. But the current cost is at 2.926 million. So it seems like you're cutting it a little bit close there. We want to make sure you can lock in this pricing so that you don't have to delay it again by coming back to the board saying, now we need another, X amount of money. So if you think you can get it done with that, you guys have not let us down yet. So I trust your judgment on that. You're the experts. So if there's no other questions, we'd be looking for two votes. One is a vote to increase the FF&E IT budget allowance to $3 million via transfer of up to $900,000 of supplemental funds from the project's soft cost contingency account. Craig?
So moved, Barger.
Second, Lamb.
Barger, Lamb?
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Evans, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. And then the second is to authorize the purchase orders for approximately 1.7 million in FF&E IT on pre-approved Massachusetts state bid list detailed in the memo. Craig?
So moved.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Lamb.
Barger, Lamb?
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Evans, yes.
Stacy, yes.
Full Janetti, yes. Terrific. Okay, the next one is the discussion and vote with an intent to award contract for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades to the same Blanche Ames School. And the contract would be awarded to Paul J. Rogan Company. You want to tell us about that, Chad?
Sure. So the final item that I have for you on the agenda is the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So hopefully nobody has been into that building. It's not a very pleasant experience, but it's 20 plus years old now, and it's time for it to be upgraded. So those costs for those upgrades were included in the project scope and budget agreement for the elementary school project. We are tying into it. It does serve the entire campus. These are needed upgrades. The last thing that we want is to open a brand new building and then have the sewer system that services not only that building, but the entire campus fail shortly after opening a new building. The challenge with this is it's an extremely specialized scope. We're talking about replacement tanks and very specialized equipment inside there, pumps and specialized HVAC systems. Right now, the market is very hot and the material supply chains are stretched thin. So we did advertise this the first time earlier this year, and we did not receive any bids. After that, we went to the general contractor and we met with them and their key trades and asked them to price it. They declined to price the project as change order work. So the project was re-advertised. Fortunately, during the re-advertisement, we did receive 2 bids on that second attempt. So the low bid contractor was the Paul J. Rogan Company. Their low bid number was $1.49 million. The second low bidder is a company called WES, and they were just shy of $2 million. So while both of those numbers are higher than the 2020 cost estimates, this bid combined with the bids received 1 year ago that awarded Brate's contract still place us $9.75 million below the authorized construction budget. So we're low on Brate, we're a little bit high on this one, but it still nets out to $9.75 million in Easton's favor. So last week we presented this information to the planning committee and they confirmed their recommendation to proceed with the low bid award to Paul J. Rogan Company. And this evening we're requesting authorization to issue a notice of intent to award to Rogan Company. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Greg?
Yeah, I'm concerned about, you got no bids the first time around. And then you go to Brate and they don't want any part of it. Is that what you're basically saying, is they don't have the expertise to do what needs to be done?
Correct. Their site subcontractor has done similar work. So we met with them directly and they actually pulled the documents on the rebid and we expected them to submit a bid. They actually declined the bid because they just don't have the resources right now to give to this project.
So it's a resource issue for them, not an expertise issue.
Right. Correct.
Okay. And
for the sites up. Yep.
Okay. And do you know why all of a sudden you get 2 bids when you didn't, the first time you didn't get any bids?
I think, if I'm being honest, I think the 2 bidders saw an opportunity. They saw a no bid condition, and this is not their preferred line of work. Paul J. Rogan Company typically specializes in really high-end historic remodels, things like that. So I think in this instance, they saw that there were no bids and there's an opportunity for them. So they came in at a number that they thought would allow us to move forward and still be the lowest bid. And they were right. WES, who also put a number in, was 33% higher. So that's kind of where we are today. I did call Paul Rogan Jr. myself after we opened those bids, and the architect called him as well to understand. And really what it comes down to is the numbers were 2020 numbers. And as we've all seen in everyday aspect of our lives, nothing costs what it did back in 2020, whether it's fuel, vehicles, groceries, everything is up. Steel is the same. These pumps, these specialized equipment items are under the same. So a piece of it is definitely in the market. And then a piece of it is we saw a contractor that's taking advantage of a no bid condition.
And this is their area of expertise, or they're jumping into an area that they haven't done before?
So they're a very, very good general contractor. I don't know this is their area of expertise, but they have subcontractors on board who do specialize in this type of work. They would really be a very high level oversight. We have worked with the Rogan Company in the past. One great thing about working with Paul Rogan Company is when you have them on your team, usually it's a very family oriented business. So you're dealing with a Rogan. They care about their company name and their reputation. So we are confident that they will do a good job and they will do right by the town of Easton on this project, if awarded.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
Mark?
No questions.
Jamie?
Yeah, it's just tough. We're stuck, right? We're between this rock and a hard place, and Chad put it well. The reason we got those bids is because there was an opportunity and they seized upon it. And so unfortunately, it looks like our options are bleak, and this is the path we have at the moment.
Jen?
Yeah, in a similar vein, there's no other path forward with this other than proceeding with the work and moving this direction, correct? Like, do we have another option here in this situation?
Not good
So-
ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure. It's how I was interpreting it as well, but
Yep. So we discussed about school planning, and the choices are we proceed with this, understanding it's not an ideal set of circumstances, although I feel like we have to keep pointing back to the healthy contingency we have. You could issue a scope, a directive to Brate and say you have to do this, and then it's build time and materials, I believe, Chad, yes, and we have no idea what that would be. Or we just wait and try to bid again later when we're closer to project completion and occupancy, when the market could be worse.
with the cost of that's escalation of everything right now, that's a huge risk. So
Well, and
Okay.
not only cost risk, even if perhaps we got lucky and shaved, some money off of the price you're looking at right now, then you're running into timing challenges where you're going to be occupying and sending waste to a plant that needs to be updated before the work's done.
it's painful, but I understand the necessity of it. Thank you.
Well, I think we're talking about a company that, Chad, you have a personal relationship already. You know them. They are the lowest and most responsive bidder, which means they can do the work. We have a price. I think that I'm really glad that you were proactive to bring this forward and lock this in now. And I'm appreciative that we were able to get two bidders and that we were able to find an organization that will be able to help us with this, because if we didn't have that and we had to wait until longer, what it's like just to, I know that you can't really compare it with your regular life, but even just trying to get a regular contractor or a plumber or an electrician to come to your house, the trades are so busy right now. So I'm appreciative of their company that they were responsive, and I feel more comfortable knowing that you've worked with them. So they can all say they're a responsive bidder and you look at it, but if you've got that relationship, that makes me feel comfortable. So if there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion to award this wastewater treatment contract to Paul J. Rogan Company, not to exceed $1.490 million.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Lamb.
Roger Lamb,
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and full Janetti, yes. Thank you so much, Chad. We appreciate you being here. And it was really a lot of technical, dense material for us to digest. I appreciate how you made that easily understandable to us and to the public.
Thank you all, and look forward to meeting with you next time for an update on FF&E.
All right. See
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad.
So it is, wow, talk about perfect timing. It's 7 o'clock, just in time for the joint meeting with the Finance Committee for the presentation of the department heads' budgets. So let's let in the Finance Committee members.
Dottie, are you moving them or do you want me to?
I'm starting at the bottom and moving them, so I don't know if we can do it at the same time.
Good evening, everybody.
I think we have everyone moved over. Mike DePietro is still there.
Should we give congratulations to Robert and to Shireen and to Jay for the results on Saturday?
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah.
Do you have a quorum? I'm trying to look. Where's
I
Patrick?
believe we do. I'm trying to count as you're trying to count. 1, 2, 3, 4,
6.
6. Yeah, we have 6. Yeah, so we can start with this.
My God.
Terrific. So do you want to open the meeting on your end, Patrick, for the Finance Committee?
Yep. I'm going to do a roll call vote to open the meeting. I'm just going to go down the list of people. Did you? Oh, there's Mike is here. Mike's going to be at the bottom. Sorry, Mike. All right, I'm just going to go to the list, name and present, and then I'll open the meeting up for the joint FinCom and Select Board. DiNapoli.
DiNapoli, yes.
DiNardo, is he here yet? I do not see him. I think he's on his way. Diaz.
Diaz, present.
Jenkins. Olson.
Olson, present.
Bamosi.
Bamosi is present.
DePietro.
Present.
And Patrick Kellen is present. With that, we are kicked off.
Okay, so we are going to start off with a presentation with the Finance Department. Connor, do you want to bring people in and take it from here?
Sure. So while I bring the finance department heads in, I just want to note, everyone received a line item detail last week of all the departmental expenditure proposals for fiscal 23. I'm happy. I think this is the first time that we've gotten it done in time for the hearings, but the proposals you're going to hear tonight are reflective of a balanced budget proposal. There's no longer a deficit remaining. I sent a change memo a couple of hours ago detailing that to everyone, and I will go into that change memo in more detail Wednesday, but I just wanted that piece of context there. One of the other things that was sent out to you before the meeting was that same line item detail, but with the departmental narratives that you typically see in the budget book. That just gives a little bit of good context of what the departments work on, what they're responsible for, and highlight some of what they did last year and what they're looking to do in the year ahead. So with that, I will bring our finance department in to get us started. Wendy, are you giving an overview or are we going straight to Rob in assessing?
Sorry.
Your mic is not cooperating with you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We can go straight to Robbie's budget.
All right, great. And so for everyone here with the PDF I sent, Easton fiscal 23 line item, assessing is page 17. Rob?
Thing that I do want to add is I can do a screen share. I did it just a summary of our 3 divisions. That. Can you see that?
Yep. Yes. All right. Good evening, everyone. With the salaries, the increases for the department head and clerical salaries are just the step. The overtime was decreased. The longevity increased. 1 person will be getting longevity this year, so all 3 people will be getting longevity. And the temporary clerical replacement decreased also. We're looking at that as far as covering vacations. The expenses, the cyclical inspections, we increased by $3,000. Basically because of COVID, we missed a couple of years where we were able to do cyclical inspections. So we looked at putting that money in so that hopefully we can catch up to what we had missed. And the other increase is in data processing. And basically that's because of the increase of the vision software maintenance amount. And we had added last year Nearmap, which was paid for through COVID. We were able, what Nearmap does is it gives us they do fly over 2 or 3 times a year of the town. So we're able to see when we can't go out there, especially with COVID, when it was difficult to get out there. We're able to see the properties. We can see the differences. So we were able to pick up like some of the new construction. We've picked up some sheds, pools that we can't always see because not everyone allows us onto their property. That's all the increases with the assessors department.
So the bottom line on that is it's a 1.69% increase in your budget.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much. Which one do you want to do next, Wendy?
Next on the agenda is the treasurer collector's budget.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Good, Linda, how are you?
I'm good. I'm Linda Hawks. For those people who have not met me yet, congratulations to the new members of the Finance Committee. My budget is pretty straightforward. We have the increases in payroll that are either contractual or cost of living. We in the treasurer's office also don't have the temporary clerical replacement wages anymore, which is a good thing for us. We're back up to full staff and have been. And we're looking forward to doing more with that this year, which is reflected down below in the increase that I have in my operating expenses with increased training. All of the staff can use training this year, either furthering, in the case, my case, continuing education for my certification. I've got an assistant and a collector who are working on their own certifications, and then another payroll coordinator and collector who are will be doing additional training, online training. And the increased expense is so that we can get back out there. I don't know if I can share my screen, but we've fallen off. Let me just try in case okay, I can't, that's all right. Oh, sorry. No, I've just done something, but.
Yeah, I took my screen share off so that.
Okay, all right. Just because I like to see things, I don't know if you can see that, there we go, sorry. Just because I like visuals, this is my actual training budget. I have a very small budget. It's not much, it's not very remarkable, but you can see in fiscal year 21, we obviously couldn't get out and to do training, but we also sort of slacked when it came to even online training. It was hard to get the things that we needed online. So we're looking forward, now that we're back up to full staff, we're looking forward to replenishing that. Other than that, my budget is fairly unremarkable. Overall, a 2.59% increase in costs in my budget.
Great, thank you so much. I really like that you recognize the value of training. I think that we value that also. It's really important, especially, well, in all departments, but especially in your department, things change a lot.
Yes, I do.
And I appreciate you recognizing the value in that. What was the third one, Wendy? Town accountant.
Yeah, my budget. Yep.
You want to do that one next, and then we can.
I'm not sure. Oh, stop sharing. There we go.
Go back and share. Okay, so the third budget, town accountant. So I am the finance director / town accountant. Town accountant is a statutory position, and so as finance director, I also fulfill that role. The accountants department has 3 full-time employees. Myself, I've got an assistant town accountant and a principal clerk, and the expenses are primarily payroll driven. Got a very small expense budget. The increases that you see in payroll are contractual, and also some estimates are in there for cost of living. And on the expense side, the increase is also for training. My budget has been pretty flat for the last few years, and, conference trainings have been increasing the cost per event. And also I would like to have my assistant attend some additional training. So that's what the $900 for an increase represents. And basically my expense budget it's really mostly training and a small amount for dues and memberships. And, and you might notice that there are some slight differences in the percentage change amounts that you see here versus what's in the detailed reports. That's just rounding differences between Excel and our software system. So you might see 2.58 instead of 2.59 in the detail. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Excellent. So we have a lot of people and we have a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight. So rather than go through and call everybody out individually, if you want to stop screen sharing, Wendy, so I can see everybody, that would be helpful. And why don't we start with anybody on the Finance Committee? If you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll take them in order of how we see them, how Patrick sees them. Any questions or comments?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Wendy, for the presentation. I had a quick question on temporary clerical replacement. It seems to has dropped by almost by 83%. And so when the assessor gave his presentation, he said in the past we've used temporary help to cover vacations. And I'm wondering what is the difference going to be for the upcoming fiscal year if we don't have, like, who will cover vacations if we don't have the temporary line item?
You're muted, Rob.
My wife would love that button, of course. The temporary vacations is for this year. Last year we had somebody new come on. So, excuse me, the temporary clerical, we were actually fortunate enough to have my former office assistant come back. She retired and she helped with the training, as well as fill in when the current office assistant is taking some trainings. For instance, in May, she's going to be taking course 200 of the Mass Assessors Association, and that's on Thursdays throughout May and the first Thursday in June. And my former office assistant is going to fill in for that day. Those days, I should say.
Robbie, also, correct me if I'm wrong, but this also spanned a period of time in which staff in your office was cut because of budget constraints. Right. So we needed to lean on that more significantly. Last year's budget restored your staff.
Correct.
You now have full staff, so it would make sense to reduce the leaning on temps.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from FinCon members? Okay, seeing none. Any questions from Select Board members?
I have none.
Okay, no hands raised. Mark, was that a hand raise or a scratch in your chin? Okay, so no questions from the Select Board. I would just like to thank Wendy, Linda, and Robbie for being here to talk about your budgets, and also to express our appreciation for keeping those budget numbers, I would say pretty flat, and making the most that you make with very little increases. And still, I'm looking at the page in the accounting department, receiving the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award for fiscal year 20. It wasn't submitted in 21. It was awarded in 22, and we're on target to receive it in 23. That's huge, and I really appreciate all the work that goes into that. So thank the three of you tonight for being here, and we really appreciate your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Inspectional Services.
Sure, I can promote Mr. Greiner. Wendy, you're sticking around, I believe, yes?
Here I am. How are we doing?
Tonight.
Yeah, I'm just glad I don't have to follow Uma this year, so.
She has spared all of us that this year, Kevin.
Yeah, that's good, that's good. So yeah, basically my budget's pretty simple as usual. I do have a couple of changes. One of them is my local local building inspector position is going to increase from 24 to 30 hours. So if you see that line item there, that's that $10,000 increase to 27.5%. And then the only other thing I have is we just moved some money below. What we did was we took $1,000 from our inspector expense account and we put that back in training because our training had dropped to $2,000. By upping it to $3,000, it gives us a 10% training budget. And that's what the ISO likes to see. And as we know, the ISO is very instrumental in giving us our rating. So we want to keep them happy. And I do have a tentative meeting with them in May. So to go over all the budget stuff and our training and our longevity of inspectors and the codes we use, and they go through a whole litany of things to determine, if we're doing what we're supposed to do in our department. But those are basically the only changes. Everything else is contractual.
One thing I just want to call out when I look at this in the narrative is your office issued 3,422 permits in calendar year 2021, which is approximately 65 permits a week. That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
We've had a lot of growth over the past couple of years. And I remember when COVID first started and there were people that needed inspections and we had to write policies immediately on how to get that done. And so to be able to do that volume during COVID and during a pandemic is really incredible with such a small staff. So we appreciate that.
I appreciate that, Dottie. Yeah, but it really picked up during COVID. It really hasn't slowed down. The other thing is what did pick up, a lot of those permits are homeowner permits because people were home doing their own projects. And those take 3 to 4 times longer than any other permit because we have to do a lot of holding hands and guiding people through the process because they just don't understand it. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and my staff works very hard on those permits. So that's what you don't see in the numbers.
Yeah.
I just want to add to that I share Di's appreciation. I actually, while you were just talking, Kevin, pulled the budget from 2018 and your department did 2,900 permits then. So the amount of permits going out the door is up 17% with effectively no additional staff in 5 years. So they've done really great work. Kevin helped write those protocols for inspections during COVID. And Kevin's working with Stephanie Danielson and planning now to rebuild the permit system across the town government to have better user interface and hopefully cut down on some of that more intensive customer service piece needed by actual staff time.
And those building permits translate into new growth, which is really helpful to our budget and our bottom line. So we appreciate all the people that do make those improvements to their homes and businesses.
Yeah,
so
tremendous amount of new homes as well, new single families, apartments, things like that, which is good for the town.
Excellent. So we'll take questions from the Finance Committee. Again, the same thing. If you have a question, raise your hand.
I'm just gonna talk. I'm theoretically I can call on myself, I guess. Hey Kevin, the only question I had is that I saw the telephone communication line item apparently starts in fiscal 2023, and I just wasn't sure if that was, I assume, covered in some other line item, but I wasn't sure exactly what the breakout for that was.
Wendy may need to answer that question, but I think that is for the telephone stipends for the inspectors. Is that what we did? We put a separate line item in for that?
Also for the data plans.
Correct.
For the tablets that are used out in the field.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. That's right.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's it for me.
It shows as a 0% increase though.
Well, technically it is.
Yeah, there's not increasing over the previous year, so there's nothing to increase.
Well,
you divide by 0.
Yeah, you can't create a percentage increase over 0. It's the software won't do it.
It was paid for elsewhere last year, so it's a new budget. new line.
Yeah, for a time, we were charging it to the CARES grant. But since that ended, we've started at paying that out of the budget.
Excellent. Yeah, I figured. I just wanted to make sure. Anyone else from the Finance Committee side?
Shireen, you had your hand. Was it the same?
Yes, it was the same question. Thank you, Patrick.
Hell yeah. It's my vice chair right there.
Okay, on the select board side, anybody have a question? Raise your hand. No hands raised. It's hard to scan all of the little squares on here with the more people that are on here. So with no other questions, thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate you being here, and send our thanks to your staff as well for the great job.
I will. Thank you, Dottie.
All right. So next we have information technology.
I'm moving Mike Deltano over now.
Page 26, if anyone needs it.
Thank you. I forgot to do that.
Hi, Mike. Welcome.
There we go.
Thanks for
Can you hear
being
me now?
We can hear you. Good to see you.
Good to see all of you too.
So we can see your budget. Anything that you'd like to call out or speak to specifically?
Well, the only difference at all this year is we're finishing the switch over from Sophos antivirus to the Komodo. And though that's more expensive than the Sophos used to be, it's about half the price of what the Sophos would have been. So it's just a bump up of about $2,000, and we're about 3/4 of the way there. I have a conference call with them on Thursday, and then I'll get the licenses for the rest of the laptops and the final 25 or so computers, and that'll be all set to go July 1st.
All right, terrific. Connor, were you indicating you wanted to say something? Okay. Any questions from the Finance Committee? I don't see anything. Any questions from the Select Board? All right, well, Mike, as a department of one, you have a lot of responsibility, and we appreciate all the work that you do to keep IT services running smoothly. And thank you for being here again tonight and keeping your budget, budget manageable.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Have a good night, everybody.
Next, we have the Town Clerk's office. Hi, Danielle. Thanks for being here tonight.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm going to take a few minutes just to go through what changes and highlight some changes that are in my budget. The department head and records manager and clerical, those are all contractual obligations.
All right, just for everyone here, page 30.
The clerical, as a reminder, we have that houses the assistant town clerk and the principal clerk. Principal clerk has been in the office for the past year at 21 hours. There's a slight increase in that salary for her. Let me just make sure I have my notes right here. She will be for 14 weeks. We've been increasing her from 21 to 35 hours. That's specific to 3 elections for this fiscal year, 3 early voting weeks, and 8 vote by mail weeks. That's how we calculated the increases based on the needs of the office. I guess I should have started by saying the main difference in my budget is this year we have 1 election, and next year there'll be 3 elections. So that'll be a common response to most of the increases that you see in my budget. Under the poll workers, in addition, I just wanted to point out a couple of different things. We don't know what the election laws are yet. There's a debate in conference committee currently between the Senate and the House, but we do know that our election laws are going to change, and they'll change with the fall elections in 2022, which is part of FY23. So we do anticipate having early voting Early voting is looking like it's going to be expanded to also include 7 days and a weekend with the primary and 2 full weeks and 2 weekends for the general election. Looks like advanced tabulation will also be part of that. And so I've budgeted accordingly with that. We have also increased for our wardens from $14, to $14.75, and from all the other election workers from $13.50 to $14.25 to bring us in line with minimum wage. And the other thing that I will note that impacts this line item is the additional precincts that we have for state elections with re-precincting. We did increase to a 7th precinct, and then for state elections, we have a split precinct. That split precinct basically operates as a whole additional precinct. And so we're operating at 8 precincts for state elections. So then we go into the expenses. You'll see that there's a slight increase in records management. The records management increase, one is because of our monthly bill from Shred-it at Town Hall has gone up slightly. Also, we have an annual audit of our attic that happens with our records manager and the vendor that we used to do the attic project a few years back. And there's a new software, final software, I think, in my office has been converted since I've arrived. And we do have an online marriage software now. So folks at home can actually start the process to file their intentions. It was the last piece of software that we needed in the office. So that's $1,000 per year for maintenance for that. However, I will note that that should be coming out of the IT budget because the software that we were using before that actually was more per year. And under the town code expenses, you'll see that there's a decrease in there. I did reduce the line item by $2,000. Back in FY19, we had a large number of zoning articles. And so we had the last 2 years been budgeting for that. We're taking a chance by reducing it. I guess what I'm saying to the finance committee is if it comes back higher, I might need to come to you for a fund transfer later. But I think that based on the history from the last 2 years, it makes sense to reduce it and approach it a different way. And the town meeting and elections expenses obviously has increased due to the additional elections that we have this year.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions from the finance committee? Any questions from the select board? No questions. Well, I just want to say, Danielle, that it's such a pleasant experience to go to vote. The signage was great. This time you had with the re-precincting and the redistricting, it was very clear. You had it posted in a very clear, easy to way. And I really want to give a shout out to all the poll workers. It's a long day and they do a great job and they're so pleasant and, you know, very welcoming, always a smile on their face. And that makes a big difference when you're going in to vote. So you just do an incredible job. And I even further than that, all the information that you do to the boards and committees when anything is due, when we have to take, you know, open meeting law training, or when somebody's getting sworn in, or if you're a candidate, you get a candidate packet. If there's a holiday coming up, you let the chairs know that they have to change the date, that be sure to get your agendas in on time, and then a whole packet for how to submit agendas, how to submit minutes, how to do a Zoom meeting. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people don't necessarily see, and you've done a really great job keeping that easy for us and helping us through some of those challenging logistical things that happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the kind words, and thanks for the shout out to the election workers. They really are a great team and make the day go really smoothly. So I appreciate them as well.
Thank you, and send our thanks back to your staff as well. They always do a great job.
Will do. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You as well.
Next, we have the police department.
Dottie, while you're bringing them in, can you also bring in Brian DiNardo? It looks like somebody already got him. Thank you.
Elizabeth, I would just ask for the minutes. It's noted that Mr. DiNardo joined at 7:31. And I feel the need to point out, this is Chief Sullivan's last budget presentation. Also not following UMA, so we tried to hook him up tonight, but just want to acknowledge that. And Chief, I think you've done this for 7 years now. So I don't know if you're taking point or if Deputy Boone is, but in any event, thank you for all of your work over the years.
Oh, thank you, Connor, for the kind words. For those who don't know me, my name is Gary Sullivan. I'm the police chief. Thank you for the clapping. This year, I invited Deputy Chief Keith Boone with me to present to you this evening. So, Deputy.
Good evening, everyone. And for those that I haven't met, good evening. So I am going to present our budget, which is on page 39. And if you're looking at our department detail request, you'll see department head, assistant department head, and administrative salaries. Those are our non-union staff, which includes the chief and I and our administrative secretaries. The rest of everything you'll see in payroll is collectively bargained. So those modest increases you'll see are based on that. Some big changes you'll see are crossing guard and matrons is reduced now. We no longer are controlling the crossing guards. They are under the school department now. And you will see a specialty pay, which was an increase. That's a stipend. So overall, we actually saw a decrease of $8,962, which is 0.20% decrease on our payroll subtotal. And on our expense side, the only increase was $5,000 added to our gas and oil. And that's due to rising costs that we anticipate. So this is for 36 police officers. And if you notice in Wendy's package, she provided our narrative. We are actually going to get back to the number of 37. And we're fortunate enough working with the town administrator to get back to 38 full-time police officers. And I know that's something the chief has been working on for the last 7 years, something that was very important to him. And on his way out, we've achieved it, but these two additional positions will be funded through the Federal American Rescue Plan. And that's our budget.
So the bottom line difference is decrease of 0.08%.
Correct. What we had some retirements and officers that transferred last year, and we've replaced them with 3 new officers that just graduated the police academy. And so they're coming in at a lower cost with a different salary structure and career incentive plan than the prior officers that have retired and resigned.
Terrific.
And Deputy, if you, in addition to those, you said 3, how many with retirements and things of that nature, how many, and leaning on ARPA, which is great, is it 7 student officers currently? Is that right?
We just had 3 graduate that are rounding up their field training, and we have 4 new recruits that began April 4th. So they'll be graduating around Halloween, and in the last calendar year, we'll have 7 officers brand new out of the police academy.
I think one thing I want to note for the department and something that the chief cared about a lot before ending his tenure here is part of leveraging the federal ARPA funds is that this will get us to a staff level where we hope to create a community resource unit that works with a civilian social worker that we are in the process of hiring, which we're really excited about. The chief has been a big proponent of it. I know Deputy Boone is as well. And so we did this kind of purposely. We have fire, rescue, and health coming in too. They've all been working together, in my opinion, exceptionally well during COVID. And we hope to formalize some of that with the creation of this unit moving forward. So I just want to give credit to the chief and the deputy on that.
Terrific. Any questions from the Finance Committee?
Yes,
Robert?
I have a question.
Oh, Shireen, you first, then Robert.
Deputy Boone, thank you so much for your presentation. My question is just pretty broad. Do you feel that you have everything that you need to keep the town safe given the budget that you've presented? Is there anything else that you need that you just didn't write in, or you're saving for a later date?
That's a great question. We've worked really hard and with the town administrator, and getting to that 38th officer is really going to help us accomplish what we've been trying to do with our community outreach. So I think, unless you'd like to give us something else, I think I think we're going to be good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
To the department's credit, though, on that question, the police department, like many of ours, even with 38, is a very lean agency. So it's really important that we have really good training for these folks, which we do. We have a high level of education, but I appreciate the deputies' diplomacy, but they will still be a lean department. But we have great people working here, and it's our hope and expectation that as we lean on those federal funds, that will assist the department.
Okay, thank you, Connor.
Robert? We can't hear you.
Jamie, you're an expert in this. You're always double muted. How does that work?
So funny that you say that, because I was about to come out and say, hey, Robert, this happens, and the only way to resolve it is to log out and log back in. If I'm not still double muted, I don't know.
No, we had a hint of him. I think, Robert, I think you had an issue with your microphone last week. It's probably still going on.
There's I think a dial-in number that you could actually use on the agenda, when you'll need to make sure you're muted on your computer so there's not feedback, but I can give that to you right now. It is 646-558-8656. It's listed on the agenda. One more time, 1-646-558-8656. The webinar ID is 842-3219-1421.
Put in the Q&A too.
A little slower, Connor.
It's all the caffeine. 842-3219-1421.
Connor, while Robert's dialing in, can we continue with any other finance committee and then even maybe select board comments?
So,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna because it didn't go through. I just want to echo what Connor and Serene and my speaking with Deputy Chief Boone and Chief Sullivan. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet with you, but it's pretty amazing how they kept this budget under budget, and also the fact that they have, and I was quite impressed with the fact that they have, and I'm not sure if you're hearing me, the community outreach worker, which I think was thinking ahead and understanding the society that we live in. We had a long conversation. They educated me on what they're doing, and their whole concept and methodology I found impressive. So I just want to give a thumbs up to the police department and what they do. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but just a thumbs up on the fact that they have the budget. And that's what Shereen and Connor had to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. We appreciate that feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, any other FinCom members before we go to select board? Okay, select board members? Jamie, I'm sure you have a question. Comment?
Yeah, go ahead. If we're jumping, I'll jump out of turn, Mark.
I mean, there's really virtually no increase here. There's a decrease, so that's fantastic. But Chief Sullivan, I think this might be the last time that I'm going to have a meeting with you, or definitely a last budget meeting. So I just want to say thank you for these past, not just these 7 years, but the decades that you've given to the town of Easton. You've done an outstanding job, and you've left. You will be leaving the town in fantastic shape, and you were an absolute leader these past few years. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Mark. Very much appreciated.
Go ahead, Jamie.
So I'm just glad that Keith's in the hot seat now because I left some good stuff for him. But yeah, Chief Sullivan, thank you very much again. I know we've had a chance to say goodbye to you before, and I'll do it in person before it, you know, we run out of time. So Keith, here it is. Hey, of the 7 new recruits coming through, talk to me a little bit about education. And now the Quincy bill we know is no longer, it's a thing of the past, and education stipend, just remind me. And what's the average education level of like these 7? Do we have like some with associates, some with bachelors, some with none? And what does it look like for, yeah, education?
So all 7 are, well, let me back up. So of the first 3 that are now in field training, all have degrees. Not all in criminal justice, some in different areas. So contractually, they need to have a criminal justice degree to qualify for the educational incentive we get. It's not the Quinn bill, which you just mentioned. Of our next 4, 2 have criminal justice degrees. 1 has an associate's in criminal justice and is working on it. And 1 other officer has a business degree and he is working on additional classes. So everyone is pursuing higher education.
Great. Thank you very much.
Any other select board? So just a couple of things that I want to call from last year's budget. The department received a federal grant in fiscal year 2022 from the Bureau of Justice Assistance for bulletproof vests. And I think it just calls out the fact that our departments really are always scouring where they can get resources to help outside of their budget. And the police department has done a good job really taking advantage and seeking out grants like that. So all of that really helps us with the budget. And then also the work that was done with SEMRAC is really, I mean, it's groundbreaking, and people all over the state looked to that model. There's other towns that want to get in on the SEMRAC dispatch, and it was an incredible, it feels like it was a very quick process, but it might not have felt like that to you, but everything was done so efficiently, and it's just really the coolest place to go in and see how things are done there. So thank you both for all your work with that. And, you know, all of these changes, creating efficiencies, but moving forward and, you know, doing it in a way that really benefits the people in the town. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.
And Gary, we'll see you again before you leave. So there'll be plenty of more time to put you on the spot, single you out, and say nice things to you. But we really appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you, Dottie. Very much appreciated. And thank you all. And Robert, we haven't forgot about you. It's not too late to stop by. So please stop by anytime and visit us.
Great.
Thank you all.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. We're getting to the bottom of the list here. We've got the fire department and ambulance. So we have Chief Alexander and Deputy Chief Carroll. Welcome.
You're on page 49 now.
Good evening. Thank you. It's great to be here. This is my first time for a budget cycle with all of you. And I have Deputy Carroll with me, and we're both happy to be here. We both got sworn in on the same day, and we've been going through this year together and learning our budget and our department. And we'll present to you our FY23 proposal tonight. So thank you for having us, and congratulations to everybody through their election this past weekend as well. And I would just going to share a screen for a presentation. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So Chief Partridge had always done a great job. I've seen many of his presentations. I watched them, and he did a great job. So some of his good work in here, and we just took it forward. So you've seen the mission statement before. It hasn't changed. It's what we do: property, people, property, and preservation of the environment. That's what we shoot for at all times. And, I thank all of you, and I'll say multiple times to this presentation that your support allows us to be very, very effective at what we do for our mission. And we were proudly serving Easton for 128 years. That's really amazing, and proud to be a part of it. This is our family, and this is the swearing in day for the deputy and myself. Great day, and glad to be here tonight because of it. So it was nice to see us all together, and we've been together like this a few different times this year. So it's a really great group, and the town is well protected by them. I just want to touch on some, I put FY21 and 22 successes because some of our stuff is tracked by calendar year and some is tracked by fiscal. So first and foremost, we had no major injuries to our firefighters. We do have some IODs that do happen, but everybody has been returning to work, which is what we want. We set an all-time record. We responded to 4,100 incidents. That's a record for Easton Fire Department in its history. In conjunction with the HCS, we've vaccinated 2,132 people and tested 1,210. Those numbers do move a little bit, as we still do a little bit here and there. Some of the big things we're very proud of, we established our community EMS and mobile integrated healthcare program and developed it through FY22, which we're doing now and continuing it. Tim Bamosi, who was recently promoted to captain, congratulations to him, and we will be having a swearing in. I will plug for that, and we will be putting on invitations well in advance for that event. That's a big deal. So he's been doing an amazing job, and he's out there in the public. He's been working with Director Kennedy and making sure that the public has the proactive approach. We talked about this many times in different meetings, but we're getting to people before they have to call 911, and it's really evident. And we're starting with our newborns and our car seats and our blood pressure clinics and a host of other things that have been going on that have really helped. And that's going to continue to develop with some of the additions to HCS, which I think Director Kennedy is going to talk about. We're really going to go forward with that program. And as a matter of fact, that program has been becoming the model. We keep getting requests over and over to present what we're doing to departments all over the state, as far as Pittsfield and Westfield have been here and down Cape Cod. So really, really proud of that aspect. The other thing we did is we took on our maintenance, and you'll see that in our budget as well when we get into that. We identified very early on that the maintenance shops were not providing good service. They were making us wait weeks and weeks and charging us $150 an hour for our maintenance. And so we were able to work with the town administrator and Wendy Nightingale and make a move to reallocate our maintenance funds from paying outsourced maintenance to hiring a mechanic. And that has paid absolute dividends, including yesterday when an engine sprung an oil leak, and we had our mechanic right there, and the truck's back in service, and it just pays off. And that truck could be out of service for weeks just waiting to get into a shop. So it really helps improve it. And long-term wise, it'll help on the capital side as well, because our trucks will be less expensive to maintain and keep, and they'll last longer. And this year, we were able to improve our firefighter living conditions. We improved our bunk areas, some of our living areas, and a big thanks to DPW for their efforts on that. We couldn't have done it without them. We've gone through a big policy review and implementation program, and I'll show you some pictures of some live fire training that we started. And training is near and dear to my heart as much as maintenance is, and you'll see some of the stuff we did. So it's a lot of fun, and it's great for our staff to be the best trained and safe as they can. So this is for the people who we'll show this in two different ways. This is our FTE chart of what we have, and it shows a historical background on it. And you have your, you can see our FTEs. I won't go through every line. You can take a look at it and certainly take any questions at the end about it. But you can see that we are going to be staffed at FY23 the same as FY22, at least with this an asterisk because some of the people came on mid-year in 22. This is our organizational structure. You can see that it starts up at the top with myself. And then we have administration kind of in the middle below me. We have our executive assistant, administrative assistant who's part-time. Then it devolves over to the suppression side with EMS, and you can see how our groups are laid out. And if anybody ever has questions on how that operates, I'd be happy to take them either in this call or offline, because fire department schedules are confusing. This is our total call volume. We had the 4,100 I spoke about. You can see the breakout. I won't go through line for line with those either, but you can see how we've been and what we do and where we spend our time.
That would be a great slide to put on your social media. I think people really should see that. That's really impressive numbers.
Absolutely. That's a great advice. We will work on that as well. This is our breakdown. So a lot of how we gauge ourselves is how much mutual aid we need, just when we use another town for services. And we can see the percentages of how much the mutual aid we needed, which is the bottom percentage over the years, and how it's decreased. And that's a tribute to the entire town supporting the fire department at staffing levels to staff us in a way that we can reduce our need for mutual aid. So those are very solid numbers, and we're doing very well in that area. You can see the increase on the EMS calls versus the mutual aid. The red is the mutual aid. You can see how that tapered down, and the blue is how much we've gone up in our ambulance calls over the years. And that's another version of the mutual aid, how that works. And we reinforce that here because it's really one of the biggest metrics for us.
And Chief, just because you're getting to it, that's why I was going to say, because it's a finance committee meeting as well, the mutual aid is important, not just for a level of service being provided to the resident or visitor in Easton getting an ambulance from a closer station, but it also has a financial impact for us as well, correct?
Absolutely. And so that's a great segue. Thank you. And if you look back to FY12, I don't know if you can see my arrow. Can you see my arrow?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you look back to FY12, you can see the increases in this is our ambulance revenue. And you can see the transition over the years to how it increased. And the part of that's run volume, part of that is being able to pick up the second ambulance and not utilize a mutual aid town. Because when they come in, they do provide a good service, but they also get the revenue for it. And that's part of how we were able to establish a better staffing level, by picking up that revenue. So you can see the dip down here. That's the COVID dip that we had. We actually got quite slow in that area. Every department did. We weren't an anomaly during that shutdown phase. And then we've already exceeded FY21's total to date. So we're back to being full speed ahead in the ambulance department, and revenue is representing that. This is just a little piece. We were talking about how different ways we can get funding to help the town. This is a program that Catherine Vamosi helps usher in with Wendy Nightingale, and it helps us offset some of the losses we incur from different types of insurance. Particularly in this one, it's Mass Health. Sometimes the Mass Health reimbursement is lower than what it actually costs to provide the service. And by going through a fairly lengthy process, we're able to recuperate some of those funds, and that comes back to the town. For the people who love data, we'll go through these quickly, not to take all your time. But you can see when we're busy, and it's fairly even, little dips here and there. You can see it times a day. If you're wondering what we're doing, you can see it times a day, and when we're busier, when we're not. It's pretty consistent over the years as well. It doesn't really change. These are our top transport locations. So this is where we go to the most as far as mainly commercial type businesses. And you can see some of those there. And all of this is available to anybody who'd like to know. Here's some training. We love to train. This is down in Fall River. We go down there and we get to fight fire and practice our skill and practice rescuing ourselves. And we bring a couple trucks down, a bunch of firefighters, and we also have our mutual aid partners come with us. This is something we started last fall, and we did it again this spring, and we'll keep doing it twice a year and getting our department through this perishable skill. We don't fight as many fires, but they're more dangerous than ever. Buildings are tighter, they're hotter, and they can really be very, very hazardous to us. And it's important that we train more than ever because we do it less. In the 1970s and 80s, a lot of the training happened on the job because you were fighting fires all the time. We don't do that anymore, so it's hard to stay current. And you can see what the inside is. That's going up a staircase for fighting a fire. You're pulling a line there. That's a pretty heavy line. That's one of our medium-sized lines. It's a lot of work. So we just got key issues. Nothing new here, but it's just important to reinforce it. You know, the size of the town, the way we get around, things that dictate our budget because of how we have to staff our stations is how it all connects. You know, we're very limited how we go north, south, and east and west, as you all know. And Depot Street is a critical road for us, and we will be thrilled when construction is complete. But we will be happy that it is done because the road will be better for us in the end. So, and then our growth, the growth in town, which is great. The growth is a double-edged sword a little bit. I believe that it's a way to sustain us, but at the same time, it does have some impacts depending upon the type. But that's the stuff we work with behind the scenes and present you with budgets to handle it. So nothing we can't get our hands around, but it's always important to recognize it. Same thing here. This is the different types of facilities that we face that create situations, special training, things like that. We've been doing some training at the gas plant on Foundry Street. So, so that's been good. So other key issues, internal. issues. Our buildings, we're aware of we took some steps at the special town meeting. So the improvements that are needed is really a new public safety building or fire station, depending on which version comes out. The initial steps are underway. Things that we've had happened in the last year or two is we run out of space for offices. We had to use up our conference room to create an office because we were just out of places for people. So we don't have a meeting space any longer. There's no space for storage at all. And we have no decontamination areas. And we've been working a little bit for gender issues with bathrooms and living areas, which is helpful, but we have a long way to go. And just a little, people know what I'm talking about. This is our Station 1 by the high school. This is our Station 2. And this is our Station 3, which houses administration as well in our maintenance. Our CERT team is very important. It's a very active team. It's one of the more active in the area. It has over 30 members that are on the team. We've got about 29 members who are active. And they provide all sorts of different things. They have volunteer hours that are tracked. Those help offset our grants. They've been critical to our weather-related, our vaccine and testing clinics. And of course, during the worst part of COVID, they were there to help with, everybody knows, with town meeting and election support. So we're very thankful to have that active group. And we support them through the fire department in whatever they can do. So it's a great team. And we hope to continue building on that and having great leadership there. That's a picture of them at a training out at NRT. They did a really great training spread out all over NRT and multi-hour training and did a really great job. And some great actors who were out there all dressed up, and it was pretty good. And they did it all on their own. They put it all together. They did it. They set it up. So, and all volunteers. I have a special spot in my heart for volunteers because they're the ones who just are truly committed. And there's no pay for them. There's no benefit other than just trying to make a better difference for the town. So the salary budgets. So I went through and just picked out, we have a lot of line items, as you can see in yours, but I picked out the increases just so I can talk about them and answer any questions that may come up. So, not each one of these is either contractual or steps. So if you go on the left, you'll see myself, the deputy clerical. Clerical went down, we had a retirement. The new people who came in had a lower salary, starting salary, so that happened. Mechanics, the new salary in the budget. So you see that in the salary side. So, but we also reduced the expense side to compensate for that position, because that was part of the idea, was that we had the money in our budget for a mechanic. We were just sending it out and not keeping it in. So then you get into firefighter personnel, we got step increases. The backfill for our MAH officer who moved up to Tim Vamosi moved up. So there's a position from FY really 21 that was created, but we're filling it there, and through 22 and now 23. Vacation time went up a pretty substantial amount because we have people going to the next level of vacation time, but also we took a real deep dive into the budget. And I think what's occurred over the last couple of years with our SAFER grant and our staffing increases is the vacation time in combination with the increases that the staff are getting fell behind the curve a bit. And it was forcing us to cannibalize other areas such as training and other key things that we want to provide to our firefighters for the betterment of the town right out the gate. And thankful to town administrator and Wendy Nightingale and everybody else for being involved and being supportive to work on that for us. And I think it'll make a huge difference and allow us to really focus on training, which is something we need to do. We have a very young department. A substantial number of our department is under 10 years and even 5 years. And it's important during that critical new time in their career to train. And I'm very excited to be able to do that in this coming budget year. So when you see career incentive, that's the college that was spoke about earlier with Deputy Boone and Chief Sullivan. And the same idea, we have similar setup, not exact, but it's very similar. And we have that. Our holiday pay and holiday overtime, those are two separate items. As if they choose to take pay as part of their holiday benefit, or if they take the day off, we have to backfill it. And those are where those increases come from based upon the amount of time they're getting in their pay and an analysis of what we're really spending there. The EMD stipend is because myself and Deputy Carroll both get that, and with us both transitioning in, there was an adjustment needed to make that line whole. Specialty pay is just a small adjustment relative to the budget. That's for our stipend. Somebody who's full-time doing firefighting but helps out with another task, they get that. And then the reduction on the EMS MIH stipend, the 12,000, that's a reduction. That is because Tim Bamosi got promoted to captain, and that was rolled into, he got the captain's pay instead of the stipend. So that was reduced. So that's the salary side. Any questions on the salary side, or we take them all at the end?
Why don't we take them at the end, just because then we can unshare and I'll be able to see everybody easier.
Very good. Expense side, not too many changes there. So I listed all of them. So our ambulance is busier than ever. We increased ambulance billing. We pay a percentage of our ambulance receipts to an outside company who was very efficient at ambulance billing. They're very good. And so we just had to increase a little bit there. I think you'll see that increase again in next year too. I think that we got a little ways to go on that one, but we'll do an analysis this year again to see how it's really playing out post-COVID. Building maintenance, buildings are getting older. Everything's more expensive. That's where a lot of this comes from. Building maintenance, custodial supplies, gas and oil, medical supplies. We're busier and it's more expensive. Same, really every one of these lines is that reason. It's either inflation or we're busier or a combination of the both. So that's what each one of those lines are. Some of the smaller ones, you know, it's just a matter of subjective judgment on experience on what things are going to go up and what we're going to need. And other ones we can really quantify it. So but it's tough. I think even with some of these adjustments, I'm sure it's town-wide, the inflation is higher than any of us would like in our budgets. And I think we'll all see an impact, but we can work through it. I feel confident that what we're getting in our expense budget will get us through. And that's the end. I will take any questions. I will stop sharing.
Perfect. We'll start with the Finance Committee. Any questions from the Finance Committee?
I do, Dottie. It's Brian Zanardo.
Sure.
Chief Alexander, Deputy Chief Carroll, thank you for your presentation tonight. I was drawn to the revenue from the ambulance, that portion of your presentation. I was just curious what the percent of collections is. Do you see that money back dollar for dollar, or is some of it lost to people who can't pay?
Yes, we don't receive every dollar that we bill. What you see there is what we actually collect. We only show the numbers we collect. But there is a reduction, much like if you go to the doctors as well. There's an agreed amount. Sometimes you pay, depends on what the insurance company is. Medicare has set rates. You take it or leave it. You don't have a choice. So there's a lot of pieces that make that. But what we show you is what we actualize to the town. I don't know if Wendy has anything else to add to that.
A good question. Patrick, did you have a question?
I have a question. I just wanted to just take a second to congratulate Tim Bamosi for being the coolest dude on the Finance Committee yet again, for suddenly being the key. I mean, as chair, I'm happy to abdicate to the newest captain, but just a huge kudos to all the hard work you've done over the past few years during the pandemic. Like, just huge amount of time dedication, and obviously you're here tonight showing that you're still giving back to the community that you're a part of. So just congrats and great job.
Any other Finance Committee members?
I was just going to make a comment, if I may, and take the opportunity to kind of hit 3 departments at once with the police, fire, and HCS. But I'm very fortunate, and thank you for your kind words, Patrick, as well. But I'm very fortunate I kind of get to see both sides of the fence in the positions I am in, and I get to see the fruits of the labor of our administrative department heads in maximizing every dollar amount. And it's an interesting spot that I'm in, because I get to see the dollar figures and the faces that are attached to them as well on the opposite side. And it's really humbling to see it happen every year. So I just want to show my appreciation to the administrative staff from those 3 departments, and I'll keep my comments to a minimum because I know it's a busy night. But it's really impressive to get the view from both sides. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I always take an opportunity to also say thank you to the boots on ground members out there, doing the work. It's been, as you said, Patrick, it's been a very interesting couple of years. They stayed in step, and as you can see, made progress day by day, shift after shift, in doing so. And it's greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Any other FinCom? Okay, Select Board.
I just want to compliment Justin and Jonathan for the That's quite a presentation, guys. I really am. I enjoyed it and I learned a lot, and I appreciate the work and time you put into that.
Thank you. I was trying not to make it too lengthy, but I wanted to give you some data.
Any other select board members? So I'll wrap it up by also thanking you. I did have a couple of things that jumped out at me. The MIH, I can never remember what the acronym is, but that you're heading up, Tim, is just incredible. I just can't wait to see what happens with that in the next year. And I will tell you also that in addition to Tim volunteering his time on the finance committee, he's also volunteering his time as a steering committee member for Easton Wings of Hope, the Substance Use Coalition, and really brings such a tremendous perspective there. And that's really tying that even closer with our health and community services and public safety. So really want to just give you a shout out for that. It's, you know, it's the Tim Vitamosi hour tonight, but really want to thank you for that. And also to mention for the protective equipment that I understand that we're going to be buying a protective equipment that does not have PFAS in it.
That's right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sean.
I'm sorry. I've heard PFAS and I jumped. You can go ahead.
No, very, very excited about that. You know, our fire gear is limited for a 10-year service life, and this will be the first year of our new program. And thankful everybody being supportive of it to replace our gear every 5 years. So we keep 2 sets, so 5 years in the front, 5 years in the back, and we get 10 full years out of our gear. And this will be the first round that limits our PFAS in our gear, and hopefully after the next cycle, we'll completely get it out of the system.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear that. And I know a lot of people in the community are as well. So with that, we really appreciate you being here. And thank you very much for keeping your budget in good condition and for the great work that you and your team do.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
I will move our final, last but certainly not least, presenter in, Director Kennedy. Chief, if you want to stick around, feel free, but also no pressure, because there's so much overlap with the 2 departments. So while Kristen comes in, I just want to highlight, Dottie, you touched on it, and Tim, I won't specifically say you to continue making you uncomfortable, but I think what the fire department has done, what the police department is trying to do, and what Kristen's department represents is a very conscious and deliberate budgetary effort we've had across departments for years now to move towards in-housing services that make sense. You know, the chief mentioned in passing that you know, contracting services out, as you know, the board earlier tonight saw the cost of going to a market on some things is incredibly high. And so doing things that just make good sense, like bringing a mechanic on board to have that dedicated staff and resource and the institutional loyalty is huge. In-housing public nursing services, we are very, very fortunate to have somebody like Tim, who is an RN. So just bringing that expertise where we have it into the organization has been delivering really incredible results and improved services. You look at the vaccine clinics and things we've been able to do. So huge credit to the staff across the board who've been part of that. So now we have Kristen, and you have a Massachusetts tag. Were you on a nacho conference?
Yes, actually. Sorry, I haven't changed that. Yes, that was, I sit on a national committee for county and city health officials. And yes, so that's why it says Massachusetts. So good evening, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kristen Kennedy. I'm the Director of Health and Community Services. I actually have found stuff that other people haven't completely talked about that I will be able to talk about tonight. But if we jump to my budget real quickly, you'll see that in the personnel piece, there is one outstanding jump in our request this year. And that is to increase the deputy director line item. What this will accomplish is it will fully fund the deputy director of community engagement and programming. And kind of the shift on that is that I'm going to talk about the first of a bunch of additional things that we have going on. And this would be that we have added now a program assistant. The purpose of adding the program assistant, who now will be paid out, you don't see in the budget, and will be paid out of fees and collections and whatnot that we have available to us, as well as some grant funding that we receive through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs is allowing us to have that program assistant take some of the day-to-day weight off of the deputy director and allowing the deputy director to actually really focus on exactly what their title lays out, community engagement and programming, and really taking that to the next level where it's going to be a real opportunity for us now that the town's AARP action plan has been approved, and we'll be looking at ways that we'll be implementing that and taking engagement. And as you know, any of you have heard Dottie or I or the committee talk about that, things that are identified in these types of action plans as being great for seniors translate across the generations. And whether it's a bench on a walking trail that allows a senior to sit and rest, that same bench allows somebody rehabbing a knee replacement to sit and rest, or somebody with a torn ACL to sit and rest, or a mom to sit and have time with her toddler to talk about what's going on, or to feed an infant. So those benefits translate across all of the ages. So that's one thing that we're trying to accomplish with this budget, is put that deputy director in as a full-time, fully funded position, and we're shifting those other funds to pay for the supportive role. As we go through the rest of my budget, there isn't much that changes. As you can see up in the personnel, it's pretty much across the board. Just the cost of living increases and step increases that are contractually obligated. We have, you know, the benefit of needing to increase our longevity line item in that we have staff that are staying with us and are staying with us longer. I do want to mention at this time, many of you do know that we are losing our current deputy director of community engagement and planning in Ann Daly. Tomorrow is her last day in the office, and she is retiring as of the first week of May. So we will be looking to fill those very big shoes, and just wanted to take this opportunity to once again thank Anne for having brought us from where we were to where we are, and really been involved in the action planning for the age-friendly plan. And hopefully maybe we can talk her into coming back in a different capacity and helping us move that action plan into reality. As we go through the rest of the line items in my budget, there really isn't anything that has much of a significant change to it, with the exception of the veterans benefits. And I'm going to say exactly what I have said over and over again as we have reduced this line item over the years. This is actually a true success story. We currently have 27 veterans that are receiving Chapter 115, and that's what this line item is. These are the benefits that are paid out under the program called Chapter 115, which is financial supports for some of our veterans who are experiencing certain financial difficulties. As I said, we have 27 right now that are receiving Chapter 115 benefits. In 2021, it was 28. In 2020, it was 35, and in 2019, it was 35. One of the biggest changes is Corey and I were, Corey Honan, our Deputy Director of Veterans and Financial Services, we're going over these numbers earlier today, is really the benefit of having the ability to sit with our veterans and identify those. I'll speak to one particular benefit that is the Mass Health buy-in. If we can help them complete the paperwork, if we can get them qualified for the Mass Health buy-in, that's $170 per month per veteran that doesn't come out of this line item, that the state actually pays directly. This also benefits our veterans, and they're not putting the money up front and waiting for a reimbursement. So it's a lifestyle win for them as well. The other win in this is that our Deputy Director, Corey, has become a certified claims officer dealing with some of the veteran claims. So he is very adept and very good at recognizing and facilitating other benefits for our veterans that actually most often put them in such good financial status that they no longer qualify for Chapter 115. So I do want to assure, everybody that, this on paper to read, we're reducing veterans benefits. It's actually a win. And if there were ever a time when we needed to pay these, the option would not be to not pay them. It would be to come back and ask for a transfer. These are important benefits that really improve the quality of life of a lot of our veterans in the community. So as I started to say, what our budget doesn't show you is that we're growing, despite the budget not showing it. There are a lot of changes at Frothingham Hall. As Chief Alexander said, he's had changes at his stations. If you haven't been to Frothingham Hall lately, we have had to add numerous offices to facilitate all of these wonderful things that we've got going on. As the chiefs have already spoke to, we've added our mobile integrated health, our community EMS program to our available services. That's housed at Frothingham Hall. We have I have my little notes. So we have a newly appointed captain, newly promoted captain who basically lives with us all throughout the week. He's also a registered nurse and he's awesome. But it's allowed us to roll out certain programs that we never had, the time or the staff to facilitate. But they also tied to what the chief was talking about as far as training. One of these is I received an email from Boston Children's Hospital, very willing on their part to come out and provide a car seat safety class. The other tickler on this was anybody who attends the class receives an age appropriate, brand new, mid to top of the line car seat for free, just for attending the class. One of the other pieces to this is Tim has been charged with some of the training, is that we now have a number of firefighters on staff who are trained in car seat installation. These firefighters were there the day of the class and helped families, grandparents, caregivers properly install and educate even further on the car seats that were being given to them. This program, you've all seen the big ticket stuff. You've seen the big things where we've been able to push out thousands of vaccines and thousands of tests. But it's got some smaller things that people don't see every day, in that we've been able to bring back and expand a lot of our kind of routine contact with a lot of our vulnerable people in the form of blood pressure clinics and blood sugar clinics. And we've been able to invest in those for better outcomes. We've had instances already where there have been conversations that have resulted in changes in medication plans and feedback to the doctors that just are amazing to have happen right within our walls. As we talk about, then Connor had mentioned, and Chief Sullivan and Deputy Chief Boone had talked about, that we will be adding another position which will complement this community paramedicine program and be associated with the community policing unit. That this person will also be housed at Frothingham Hall. One of the build outs we've done is to actually create an office space adjacent to our fire partner, with basically a service room where they will be able to discuss clients, where they'll be able to service clients and accomplish better outcomes by investing in the things that we really want to. Having these two professionals as part of our complement really is going to be an amazing experience. The final position I wanted to talk about and just make everybody aware of that we've added is a benefits navigator. This individual joined us last month. And as we look around, her job is, as we looked around, we know there are benefits out there. And, most of us can't even get through to Verizon to make a change in our, our plans and speak to a person. So navigating things like SNAP and fuel assistance and low income energy rate, and even higher level things, subsidized housing, insurance, those are all things that are very daunting to the average person. We now have the luxury of having a individual whose sole purpose is to find these benefits, identify the pathway, and then lead our residents down the pathways to these benefits. It's an amazing program. We're really excited to have Tracy on board. She's also going to be working with some of our local businesses as other programs are identified that would help them. We all know, as COVID was moving to the outdoor dining, there were mini grants that were out there that, if we're ever in a position like that again, or if we identify other resources like that, we're going to be in a position to help our businesses navigate those pathways much easier. So I think that's about it for me. I don't know if any.
Great. Any questions from the Finance Committee? All right. Any questions from the Select Board? Well, I'll wrap that up then and just thank you, Kristen. I'm really excited to see what some of these new positions do. There's a lot of opportunity, and I just love how we're sharing resources and working so collaboratively with, first responders, public health. It's really important, and being able to have the right people in the right positions to make that happen. And
it's also been important. We took, I think, a big step forward today in getting our message out to the community as well. Tim and myself and our benefits navigator were welcomed at the school department cabinet meeting, and we were given an opportunity to explain some of these programs in hopes that, since they have the contact or more contact with some of the individuals who may be needing these services, by educating them and by having the question and answer and the feedback with them, we're hoping, again, to just promote what we're trying to do.
Terrific. And, I want to give Corey a shout out. He's just doing an incredible job with the veterans and rising to the role as that's changing for him, and bringing a lot of value to your department, which translates to value to the veterans and the community and the taxpayers. I just called up because I can't believe that we're starting May, to just let people know that Monday, May 30th, there will be a Veterans Parade this year, which is really exciting. I feel like we haven't done that in a couple of years for sure. And so it's going to be starting at 1 o'clock down at Washington Plaza, which is the corner of 138 and Main Street. And it's going to go up to Veterans Memorial Park. So you'll see some advertising for that on social media, but for people to know that it's a big day. Our veterans, it really means a lot to them when they see people out in the streets, cheering them on and thanking them for their service. So I hope that everybody will make time to be there for that. And Corey just does such a great job organizing that day. And every veteran I talk to is really grateful for his services. So thank you so much to you and your team for all that you do. And we appreciate you, having such a good grasp on your budget as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. All right, so that concludes the budget presentations for tonight. Patrick, if you want to adjourn your meeting, unless you want to stay on with the select board for the rest of the time.
You guys want to stay on? You guys just want to hang out and just talk about how cool Tim Famosi is the rest of the time?
Yeah, I was going to say we don't have enough Tim time, so.
Motion to adjourn to Petro.
Oh, it's right at it. There we go. Do I have a second?
Second to Napoli.
All right, let's go down the list. DiNapoli.
DiNapoli, yes.
Hold on. DiNardo.
DiNardo, yes.
Diaz.
Diaz, yes.
Petro.
Petro, yes.
Jenkins.
Jenkins, yes.
Olson.
Olson, yes.
Captain Vamosi.
Vamosi, thank you to all the presenters, and yes.
And I am a yes. Thank you all. We are adjourned. We'll see you on Wednesday night.
Thank you, FinCom. Have a good night.
Thank you, FinCom. See you later.
Dottie, would you mind if we did like a 3-minute break before picking up select board agenda?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in 5.
See, Kelly Lamo. Oh, man.
Hi, Craig. This is Mark Fellows. My phone number is 978-544-6327. I'm just checking in. I did a bunch of your.
Craig, you are not muted.
Yeah.
Connor, do you want to just jump into the town meeting warrant draft, and then we'll go back and pick up all the other little missing pieces?
I am fine with that. We have everyone back.
Jamie, waiting on him.
Sorry, I have a candy because I need some sugar to stay awake, so forgive my rudeness. Just, I need enough.
Jamie's probably putting his kids to bed. There he is.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dottie. So we will hop right to item 10. We'll go back to the other items at the end. So you have a warrant attached for your review. 5 articles to discuss tonight. First one is the fiscal 23 capital budget, Article 8. This is identical to capital budget I was presented at your last meeting. Although at the April 11 meeting, we, as we always do at that point, labeled that capital budget as preliminary. Now that our operating position is balanced for the coming year, we're recommending just proceeding with exactly as it was presented. This article reflects that budget, and Wendy and I are here to answer any questions. No, so nothing's changed since the last meeting.
And the last meeting we voted to include, but we did not vote whether to recommend.
I don't remember if we voted to include this yet. We presented the capital budget separately as its own item on the agenda. So if the board is willing, I would request an include and recommend.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this budget? Okay. I'd take a motion to include and recommend Article 8.
I move to include and recommend Article 8.
Second, Lamb.
Roger Lamb?
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 9, acceptance of an easement at Foundry Street and Paquantucket Avenue.
So this was included in the warrant, I think, a while back, and we were waiting to get more updated drawings. They are shown here on the screen. This is associated with the Sawmill Village project. It's still in permitting with Concom and planning. But in the event that that wraps up before a potential fall town meeting, we want to make sure that our paperwork is in order. So what this article would do it would authorize you to accept an easement that's depicted here. This is Foundry Street heading west. The crosshatched area is on the developer's property, Sawmill Village LLC, where an easement would be being conveyed by the developer to the town for it's associated with a mitigation agreement executed with that developer, where they would do some road improvements, including a signal at Paquantucket and Foundry, which would be a huge improvement there. In order to fit that, the road will need to take some of his property, which is what this depicts and what the article would authorize the board to accept when we get through permitting. So I would ask at this point, the board consider voting to recommend.
Any questions on this one? Well, I'm excited about it. I think that those road improvements would be amazing. So, would you like to make a motion, Craig?
I move to include and recommend Article 9.
Second, Lamb.
Roger Lamb?
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Okay, Article 20, CPA funding, Foundry Street Historic Fence Restoration.
Thanks, Toddy. So the next 3 articles are from the CPA committee. They met last week and voted affirmatively to recommend all of them. So this is an article for funding to repair and restore a 19th century iron fence on Foundry Street in the Furnace Village Historic District. So this is, kind of a flip side of that. We just talked about a development project. We're going to have better traffic control there. There's some nice historic investments going in here. And obviously we have the Swifts Park project unfolding as well. So the CPA recommends this, and so do I.
Any questions on this article?
This is the fence at the corner of Paquantucket and Foundry, on the big White House.
That sounds correct from the address number. It's close to that. Excuse me.
Any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion to include and recommend Article 20?
I will make a motion to include and recommend Article 20.
Second, Lamb.
Roger Lamb?
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 21, land conservation.
So this is an article for the town through the CPA to fund a preservation restriction on, Pond Street for property that abuts the trustees of reservations Governor Ames Estate currently. CPA member Greg Strange did a great job on behalf of the committee negotiating this with the trustees and the owner of the parcel so that the town is paying less than what the two parcels are listed for a conservation restriction over currently open space property that the trustees will also be contributing financially towards and will themselves own and manage. So this will improve, it'll preserve the open space and improve access to that property. So I think it's a great thing. CPA voted to recommend it. I do as well.
Any questions from the board? Would somebody like to make a motion to include and recommend Article 21?
I move to include and recommend Article 21.
Second, Lamb.
Roger Lamb.
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 22, CPA funding for Oaks Ames Memorial Hall emergency repair.
So it's quite obvious if you drive by the building, scaffolding is going up. Concurrent to the town working with the trustees and the CPA to advance the necessary complete renovation and restoration of a hall. Somewhat poetically, I suppose, a major roof truss deteriorated and is needs to be repaired immediately. It's an emergency that has resulted in the structure being closed to the public until it's addressed. So this article would fund that work. It's again gone through CPA for recommendation. They do recommend it. And again, this kind of reinforces the need of a complete fix to this structure.
Any questions from the board members? I have a question. Is this the full amount of the repair, or has the hall contributed anything towards that?
I don't know if and in what amount the hall has contributed towards it. Because this has not yet been approved by town meeting and there is work beginning, it seems logical to deduce that they may have started spending to bring people on board. But full disclosure is I don't know that. I can verify that, but this is one of those situations where we are working with them. I think they publicly announced that they're attempting to fundraise for this. And as with any appropriation, if they bring more fundraise dollars to the table, we don't need to spend every one of these dollars, but we needed to just because of warrant deadlines get this listed.
Sure. Okay, terrific. Anybody like to vote to include and recommend Article 22?
I move to include and recommend Article 22.
Lamb.
Roger and Lamb?
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. All right. So let's go to, I didn't forget the Arbor Day, but I'm going to do that last. Let's do the discussion, number 8, discussion and vote for nominations of animal inspectors, Jordan Holbrook and Leanne Meal as the alternate inspector.
Sure. So State Department of Agricultural Resources, Division of Animal Health requires that the select board make this nomination each year for an inspector of animals. We always have our existing animal control officer be nominated, and then Leanne Meal as an alternate. It runs through April 30th of next year. I would recommend an appointment of each Jordan Holbrook and Leanne Meal as the inspector of animals and the alternate inspector by roll call, if you're willing, please.
Any comments or questions on that? Okay, Craig, would you like to make a motion?
So I move to appoint Jordan Holbrook as the animal, as the
animal control officer.
Is it animal control or no? It's the
inspector of animals. She is the animal control officer.
Right. Yeah, the animal inspector, and Leanne Meal as the deputy or the alternate.
Second, Lamb.
Roger and Lamb, is this a roll call vote, Connor?
Yes, so because both were nominated at once and it's an nomination, you could just say slate.
Okay. Barger, Slate.
Lamb, Slate.
Seven, Slate.
Stacy, Slate.
And Full Janetti, slate. Okay, next we need to vote to accept the resignation of Jennifer Toon Campanella from the Human Resources Board effective April 30th, 2022. Her term expired June 30th, 2023. So if somebody would like to make a motion to accept that resignation for Ms. Campanella.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Lamb.
Barger and Lamb, and this is a roll call.
Right. Barger, Campanella.
Lamb, Campanella.
Sevens, Campanella.
Stacy Campanella.
And Full Janetti Campanella. Okay, so we're going to go back to the Arbor Day proclamation up at the beginning of the packet. And Craig, I don't know if you, if you want to read a little bit about, read the proclamation, and then we can just talk about that for a second.
Sure. The Arbor Day Proclamation 2022, whereas the legislators of the Great and General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have adopted an act regarding the designation of Arbor Day throughout the Commonwealth, and whereas the purpose of the designation of Arbor Day throughout the nation is to encourage the planting of shade and forest trees, to encourage the harvesting of forage crop by approved conservation methods, and to encourage the protection of our forests from the scourge of devastating fires, insects, and diseases that destroy the beauty and usefulness of our woodlands, as well as their wildlife. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, produce oxygen, clean the air, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees increase property values and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal and provide an enduring heritage to succeeding generations. Now, therefore, we, the Select Board, the Town of Easton, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the Town of Easton, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, we urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations, given under our hand and the seal of Town of Easton, this 25th day of April, in the year of our Lord, 2022.
Thank you, Craig. So Arbor Day means a lot to me personally. When I moved to Easton, the older man who lived across the street from me was the tree warden. I didn't know what a tree warden was at the time or anything about it, but he used to come on my property and tell me how I was doing everything wrong in my yard, on my rose bushes and everything else that was growing in there. So I learned a lot about that. And he used to invite us to Arbor Day celebrations every year. And so I always think of him when this happens. And you know, he was responsible for Easton becoming a tree city, and a tree city is a really important designation, and there's things that go along with that. But Easton has been a tree city for 29 years, and we've maintained that designation. So, you know, just like the proclamation said, trees are important in so many different ways, and a real important part of our community. So I'm glad that to be able to bring this Arbor Day proclamation again forward to the board. And if you do, we have to take a vote to sign to accept this, Connor?
Or you could. I don't think it runs a high risk of challenge either way, but I think traditionally you do vote to sign it. And we had a typo there. I apologize. We'll get that corrected and have a hard copy ready in the office for the board to sign.
Terrific. All right. I don't think we need a vote to accept this because we usually we sign proclamations. So, yeah. All right, terrific. So the last thing that we have is the minutes of April 11th, 2022. Would somebody like to make a motion to accept those minutes?
I move to accept those minutes.
Second, Lamb.
Roger and Lamb.
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Casey, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. And town administrator notes.
I have none to add. Thank you.
Select board notes.
I just want to take a moment to thank the almost 1,500 people who came out to vote on April 23rd. Congratulate Dottie and Mark in their reelection. To congratulate Nancy DeLuca and Jen Starr on their reelection to the school committee, and to the 4 members of the finance committee that were reelected yes on Saturday. It was a beautiful day, and it feels good to have people come out and vote. So thank you all.
Thanks, Craig. Mark?
Nothing today.
Good to go. Thanks.
Jen?
I got nothing today either.
I'd just add a couple of other things that happened Saturday that were really great were Hazardous Waste Day and also Keep Easton Beautiful Day. So there were lots of people around the town doing cleanup, and really it's just wonderful that people will volunteer to do that. So I just recognize and ask everybody to try to do their part and pick up where you can, and thank all the volunteers that make those programs happen. So the only other thing is April 30th is Drug Take Back Day at the police station, and that is from 10 to 2. Look for the advertisements in the town crier, and you'll probably see some things on social media as well. It's a great time to get rid of your expired and unwanted medication. So with that said, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Lamb.
Barger and Lamb?
Barger, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Casey, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Thanks, everybody. Good night, and we will see you back here on Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Wednesday. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.